Hi everybody, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and part number 4 of the Dragon 1/35 scale Jagdtiger. As you can see here in the frame, I'm working on the suspension components because I'm about ready to start gluing some stuff on. So, oh, that's weird. So what I've had to do is I've started test fitting parts. Now these things are super snug. So what I ended up doing in order to accommodate being able to fit this stuff right, is just using my X-Acto knife because it's got a long pointy blade. I just kind of bored it out a little bit because on the inside you wouldn't be able to see it on video, but there's like almost a rib or a couple of ribs, I'm assuming due to the molding process, and they aren't stops because this stops on the actual flange right here. So what I've had to do is bore those out because I want to make sure that I don't have any floating axles or floating wheels, because that just looks horrible and just not a good thing. Now one thing to note is these seem to be tighter on the end axles. They seem tighter there than they do on the ones in the middle. So it's kind of weird. But anyway, so I'm just boring these things out just to make sure they'll slide all the way down and bottom out and have somewhat free movement while the cement sets up, because as I say, I don't want floating wheels. So my plan is this: I'm going to make sure all these are bored out and a little bit swivelable. That's a word, I just made it up. So I can make sure that I get everything level. Now I was going to use the axles themselves to make sure everything was flush with the ground, or in this case with the level of the tracks. But even when using a straight edge, I still had some floating wheels, so I want to rely on the wheels to determine how things are going to fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the wheels on here. Unfortunately, these bottom out on these let's call them hubs, otherwise they would be quite loose. So I can glue those on there, get them all nice and flush, and then I can mount these on the hull using a slower setting glue, so I can set it down and make sure everything is level. All right, so I'm going to work on that for a little bit, and then we'll come back, see how it turned out. All right, so as you can see here, I have gotten all of this stuff ready to go. Wheels glued on here, everything on sticks ready to prime. I'm going to prime them first, then I'll paint them. So my plan is this, my typical method for doing armored vehicles. I'll prime underneath here, and then prime all of the components, then I'll paint it. And I'm going to do a little experiment here because I want to kind of make some comparisons. For one side, since it's underneath and it's not going to be noticeable anyway, on one side I'm going to use the SMS Surfacer Black acrylic lacquer primer. Now this, let me read what it says here. This surface primer has been formulated for airbrush use and contains a talc-based sandable filler. For best results, spray with a 0.3 needle at 12 to 15 psi, applying light coats until satisfactory. Then for the other, I'm going to use, I keep a little jar of this on hand. It's Mr. Surfacer 1500 Black. And I cut it 50-50 with Mr. Color Leveling Thinner. So I'm going to spray one side with this, one side with this, and just kind of compare and see what the surface is like, you know, prior to paint. Just purely a curiosity thing. So once I do that, I'll come back, and you know, depending on my findings, I'm thinking about doing a separate video on primers and paints and just the differences in some of them. But this is supposed to, I mean, they're both sandable, obviously, but this one is supposed to be like a kind of a micro filler, which I think the Mr. Surfacer does as well. But we'll see what happens. I'll see which one is smoother, which one goes on easier, if there's any difference at all. So I'll work on that and then come back and we'll take a look at it. So I almost forgot to say, but I will be using my, oh, it's dirty. Holy cow. That dog ain't gonna hunt. As I was saying, I will be using, to spray those primers, I will be using my Iwata HP M2 single action. And I think this is actually, I can't remember if it's 3.5 or 0.4 or 4. But that's what I'll be using to spray that, because this is my workhorse. I don't know if anybody ever realized this, but this is my go-to brush. I use this more than anything. And it works really well, very durable, super easy to clean, and just awesome. All right, so anyway, I'll get cracking on that and then come back. All right, so I got the ouch. I got the primer sprayed. So this side here, hopefully you can see on camera, but this side here is the let's see, the Mr. Hobby 1500 Black, mixed 50-50 with Mr. Color Leveling Thinner. Now hopefully you can see, but it's really pretty smooth. Well, it's very smooth, actually, very uniform, looks really nice. Now here is the SMS surface primer. It's a little bit rougher. Now I think that is because of the talc filler that's in it. So it could just be because the way I sprayed it, you know, because I sprayed them both exactly the same pressure, same everything. But this is a little bit rougher. Now, I'm sure it could be smoothed out very easily, you know, so I'm not saying I don't like it, but I think for certain applications, the 1500 is a little bit better, and I think this is one of those cases because it sprays really smoothly, looks really good. Now I think where the other would be really good is if I was doing, say, aircraft. I had done a lot of seam filling and stuff like that, and I need to fill, you know, I needed to smooth out some stubborn sanding scratches or something like that. I think that would be good because I could spray it and then I could just very lightly with the really smooth grit abrasive get it smoothed out really nicely. So I think it's just two different types of things, so I'm not saying one is better than the other. Just in this case, I'll be using the 1500. So with that said, it's time to start painting, and I'm going to use MRP Dark Yellow RAL 7028 German World War II AFVs. MRP is one of my current go-to favorite paints for doing this type of thing. So anyway, I'm gonna get cracking and we'll come back and take a look. All right, So here is what it looks like. Now I don't have the drive sprocket on because I'm going to do that. I'm going to install that when I do the track, so it'll just make it a little easier. So that is that. Running gear is painted, so now I got a lot of work to do on track. So I'm going to quit this video right here. All right, so as always, if you enjoyed this video, or if you have any questions, comments, hints, tips, concerns, anything like that, put them in the comments section down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you enjoyed the video, stay tuned for more. And that is it for this episode of Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.